Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. We talk a lot of football and 3 and out, but there's always something to bet on. The NBA's in full swing, college hoops literally started Monday, and even the NHL is heating up. So if you haven't tried your first bet yet, just download the Hard Rock Bet app, and there's still time for you to get $150 in bonus bets. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but $150 in extra bonus bets. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is the only legal sportsbook whenever you're in Florida. And it also is live in Arizona, Ohio, Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, coming soon in more states near you. So whenever you're listening, just open the app and check out what you've got on any given day of the week. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today and make your first deposit. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? I'm John Middlekauff, 3 and Out Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to this channel because we are brought to you by my friends at Zone Pouches here on a Thursday night. And you did it again, Patriots. You did it again. You sucked for a couple years, but not only are you back, I see a long, long runway. If you go back to back, decade plus long runs of good teams, the Jets and the Dolphins might just throw in their pink slips as franchises. Obviously, tonight I want to talk about the big picture with Vrabel, with the Patriots. Clearly, the quarterback who, not gonna lie, I knew he was good. I mean, I've watched them. I mean, they play in some of these games against random teams and they just dominate. But tonight, I mean, anytime you play in a primetime game, he was, and I get they're playing the Jets, but man, he was good. I get why Mac Brown once said, we had programs offering him $5 million, Bama. And luckily Drake May said no, state of North Carolina. But a lot of people were on Drake May. The New York Giants, you have your quarterback now, but you guys want to trade for him, the Minnesota Vikings. So we will discuss that. And the main theme of tonight is going to be quarterbacks because the Jets, all we're going to hear, because their season's completely over, is going to be like, we got all these picks. Herb Street was talking about it tonight. Is what quarterback are we going to land in the draft? It's like, that's not the way this thing works. I've seen you with Sam Darnold. So we'll dive into that. I got a pet peeve of something that it relates to the Luka situation, but I see it all the time in the NFL as well. It's Fugazi Friday. Got a Fugazi for you. And yeah, before we dive into any football, though, my friends at Zone Pouches, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Underage sale prohibited. If you're as competitive as I am, you're always looking for something to help you stay dialed in. And for me, that thing is Zone nicotine pouches. You won't catch me without one. I just was slamming my mints watching that game. I had one before dinner, had one after dinner. I'll have one probably before I go to sleep. So, not to mention 20 pouches per can versus 15 the other guys offer. Choose Zone and dominate the day. Use the promo code number 3 and out 20 on NicoKick.com for 20% off at checkout. Big picture on the Patriots. It's funny. We talk a lot about, successful franchises and poorly run franchises. And we always say it starts at the top, aka ownership. I obviously ownership and the Crafts, I think the players that gravitate toward them, it clearly looks like they're going to have a well-run operation again for a while. I just don't think football is that complicated. When you hire the right people and then those people hire the right people, and you make good draft selections, you win. Whether you have a good owner or a bad owner, right? We saw the Patriots, and really goes back to Belichick, when he lost Josh McDaniels. They did not have an offensive coordinator, and his drafts were awful, and they fell apart. And then they had Gerard Mayo, who clearly did not know what they were doing. Now they have Mike Vrabel, who is a 50-year-old second-time head coach. Anytime, I'm a huge believer of learning by doing and growing from experiences, right? I think most people listening or watching would agree. The better they get at something is by doing it over and over and over. But there is no better learning tool than when you fail at something. And right or wrong, the owner told Mike Vrabel, "You're out of here. Pack up your shit and leave." And Mike Vrabel was out of football for a year. Now, he was with the Browns helping out in some, you know, consultant role, working with the, offensive side, helping them out, tight ends, whatever he was doing, but was not a head coach, did not have a real job, was not some coordinator somewhere. And I would imagine, like any normal, successful person, definitely any ambitious person, sometimes you got to look in the mirror, reflect, and learn you got to change a little bit. It doesn't mean your core philosophies have to change. It's not like Andy Reid from Philadelphia to Kansas City said, we're just no more passing, we're going to run it, right? 4-3 defense, no more, we're going to run 3-4. But, like, what things can I do better? And Andy Reid went from the Eagles to the Chiefs and said, you know what? Personnel, no mas. I'm out. I'm going to focus on coaching. The Jim Harbaugh you see these last 2 years with the Chargers is a dramatically different guy than the guy Jed York once famously fired with the 49ers. If you are a good coach, you dramatically improve when you're fired. Hell, I've been fired twice, and once in this business, and it changed my life dramatically for the better. Because I was able to take things in radio that I did not do well, aka work with the sales team and value the sponsors, and parlayed that once I got into the podcasting world to emphasize that as a big part of my business. And it's paid dividends for the operation. But I would not have known that if I hadn't been through the experience of it not working out. And I'm watching Mike Vrabel, and I'm watching. Here's the other thing the Patriots have that's pretty awesome. Because anytime you get a great defensive coach, and he's a CEO defensive coach, but you always worry when you have a lot of success, especially, and we'll get into the quarterback here in a minute, well, I'm going to lose my offensive coordinator. Well, Josh McDaniels, who, listen, I wondered, like, is this thing going to work? Did the Crafts force him on him? What he is doing with Drake Maye, it's working. And they're getting Travion Henderson. He's really coming on. Was he have 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games? Well, he has 5 touchdowns in the last 4.5 days. I mean, he's explosion onto the scene. Stephon Diggs is playing out of his mind. Obviously, the quarterback, looks fantastic. No one is ever hiring Josh McDaniels ever again to be a head coach in the NFL. He's 49 years old. So you never have to worry about losing him. Now, maybe, I guess, someone in college could. Doubtful, though, because his 2 stops in the NFL as a head coach, he was awful at dealing with people. And I'll say this, and I'll hammer this home till the day I die. If you are going to be a lifetime number 2, there are certain industries where that pays a lot of money. Wall Street, Fortune 500 companies, the NFL. Ask Vic Fangio. You're never going to be a head coach again, but you will be paid $5 or $6 million to be a defensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels, who was making a ton of money before he took the Raider job, this is a great gig. He's destined to be a number 2, which is awesome because he's great at it. He excels at that. And if you look at Belichick, one thing the Patriots always did well was they had, for the 20 years of the dynasty, Charlie Weiss, Bill O'Brien, Josh McDaniels. When did it fall apart? When Josh left and he had no one to replace him with. And he threw Matt Patricia, who is a defensive coordinator. And Ohio State fans would say, a damn good one. But he can't coach offense. And it was a debacle. So the Patriots, their organizational philosophy, in a weird way. Now, Drake Maye is different than Brady. Obviously, Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. But at 23, 24 years old, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Then most people said, is this thing really going to work? Even after he won the Super Bowl, it's like, he's really going to be able to just stay as your starting quarterback? People forget, but I was probably 15, 16 when he really broke onto the scene. People thought, like, what's he actually doing, being carried by the defensive guy? Then by the middle of the decade and toward the end, he became a star and MVP. But Drake Maye was a player that not only the Patriots refused to trade, the Giants, historic, it's well documented, desperately tried to trade for him, offered a ton. They were told no. The Minnesota Vikings, same thing. They were told no. So other teams valued this guy very, very highly. And I was a little skeptical last year just because we've seen this, guys with traits, but it's not that complicated. Going back to Brady, it's about infrastructure. It's about the culture. I mean, I'm watching Diggs play his ever loving ass off. I would say most people around the NFL would be like, Diggs, like that. I bet a lot of people that might have been interested were like, yeah, I think we'll pass on that situation, especially coming off an ACL. He looks fantastic. Kirk Herbstreit said something, again, that parallels the 20-year dynasty of the Patriots perfectly. They have 8 guys that play on defense, some starters and other rotational guys, who have been cut once upon a time in their career. 8 different players. I mean, how many guys do you play on defense? 12 to 14, right? Rotate in some defensive linemen, couple, nickel dime packages that you might change defensive backs. Maybe it's more like 15, 16 guys. And that is classic Bill Belichick. Get guys that are undervalued other places. That was Mike Vrabel. Remember, like, he was a guy who was cut on and off early in his career, was on the Steelers practice squad, was a guy that was undervalued around the league. And that's what you can take advantage of when you this ownership, when they believe in the guy, forever with Belichick, and now with Vrabel. They are extremely supportive. They're a great operation in terms of player friendly, a place players want to be. They obviously have the quarterback, and then it comes to building the team. Vrabel won with the Titans. I would say a clown operation. Like, before Vrabel, they were a joke, and since Vrabel, they're even a bigger embarrassment. So maybe looking back, the success was much more on Mike Vrabel, right? He was winning a lot of games with Ryan Tannehill. I think we all agree this guy playing for the Patriots has a chance to be 10x Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he has a chance, we don't need to be naive here, to be one of the best players in the league. Long way to go. It's the Jets, but still. And I just see a lot of similarities. And you know who has to be terrified? Is the Jets are not well run. Miami is not well run. Well, what happened all those years with Belichick and Brady? They beat the living piss out of them. Now, at the time, the Bills weren't either. They took advantage of that as well. They're well run now, though flawed for a good team. And I can imagine if you're Sean McDermott, if you're Brandon Beane, and you're the Pagulas watching that game tonight, you go, holy shit. They really figured it out. They took a couple years off, and now they're just right back. I mean, they're 9-2. If you look at their schedule, they feel destined for 13-4. And even if the Bills split that game and, let's say, win the game in New England, I think if you look at the Bills' schedule and the way they're playing, there is no guarantee that they are going to just win all the other games. I would be a little surprised sitting at this point, given how consistent the Patriots are and really how easy their schedule is, if they do not win this division. And this gets back to the Belichick thing. Anytime you have such good coaching and such good culture, you're a major, major threat in these games come January. Even if your team, they are going to be dramatically better in 2 years, assuming Drake May stays healthy and continues on the trajectory that he is clearly on, which is pointing straight at the sky. And if I'm a Patriot fan, I would sit back in my chair tonight, having a cocktail, having a zone, with a massive smile on my face. I'd be like, is this really happening? Because it got really bleak there for a couple years. I mean, really, really bleak. It was really kind of embarrassing. I mean, the way it ended with Belichick, even before they fired him on the field, just how bad they were offensively. And then everything last year was just kind of a consistent laughingstock around the NFL. And then he comes in and he immediately flips it. But this is also, it's not one of those where he's learning on the fly. He is very comfortable in his own skin. He's already done this. And this gets back to the experience thing. He was able to spend a year looking in the mirror. And listen, I'm not saying that the Titans, obviously screwed it up, but he's way better off that he got fired. A lot of people listening, anyone that's ever had a bad experience with a job, whether you've been laid off, whether you've been fired, if you figured it out and you look back a couple years, you're like, thank God for that experience. That actually made me much more valuable where I am now. And the differences of Vrabel and Belichick, Belichick came up in a different era, right? In an era where it was a dictatorship. Whatever the coach said went, and all players fell in line. Well, society's a little bit different, and especially the generation of player and guy you're surrounded with is a little bit different. I mean, hell, a lot of guys you're coaching now that are rookies were making huge money in college. Travion Henderson split carries last year with another NFL guy, Judkins for the Browns. What do you think those two's combined income was last year? $1.8 million, $2 million. I mean, they were both making huge coin. So it's not like, well, they're just, how are they going to, that was a huge scouting thing when I was in the league. It's like, how are they going to react to money? You don't even need to ask that question. It's on display at school. It's like, yeah, he drives a Range Rover. He's renting a $7,000 month pad. I mean, dude's swimming in cash. So I just think the Patriots, their infrastructure, they've completely flipped it overnight because of the right hire. And he has resurrected this. Listen, you talk about a guy that's zoned in. What I witnessed tonight of Drake Maye, I'll be honest, I was blown away. Obviously, if you've watched him play this year, and any Patriot fan, and any one, if you're listening to this, your team has played him, or you have fantasy or gambled on him playing, his deep ball all year has been remarkable. I think he has the best deep ball completion percentage in the NFL. It was on full display tonight. I mean, even some of the balls that a guy made a PBU on, he's hitting guys in the hand. But to me, what I was blown away by was the touch on all the intermediate throws. He clearly has a strong arm, but you watch Fields. I think sometimes when you have, and Herb Street mentioned this tonight, like Fields has all the tools. Listen, I love Fields coming out. I'm not trying to act like Monday morning quarterback. Like I always thought the guy was going to be, I would have taken Fields number 2 in that draft. If I was the Jets, I would have gone, once Trevor Lawrence went 1, I would have taken Fields number 2. Now, it turns out the rest of them, well, Mac Jones kind of resurrected his career. Fields has some limitations, but physical tools, arm strength, great. But having a powerful arm, you got to be able to layer throws. And I actually think Drake Maye takes a lot off throws and makes it incredibly easy for his wide receivers to catch the ball. In every one of his passes, there was one that floated on him a little bit. Mac Hollins, I think, made a great catch, like extended in the air. But he is hitting these guys directly in their hands. Like they are painting the picture with their 2 hands, like they're taught by wide receiver coaches going back to high school, and he's just peppering them. I'm like, if this guy's going to be accurate, like he's Drew Brees or Steve Young, they are going to be unstoppable. Now you'd be like, John, they're playing the Jets. I get it. It's not even necessarily about the opponent. I'm judging this guy a little bit tonight like I would a college prospect. And my takeaway is I feel like his accuracy is elite. And if his accuracy is going to be elite when he's 6'4.5", 225, 230 pounds, moves really well, throws an awesome deep ball, and clearly has a strong arm, how's he not going to be a consistent, like, high-end top 5 quarterback for most of his career if this is his talent? And it's going back to Josh and the infrastructure and the Patriots. They deserve a lot of credit because we have seen a lot of talented young quarterbacks in recent memory not only fail, but look completely terrible early in their career. And within a year, now I know Drake Maye and a lot of people say, well, he showed a lot of this last year. So many games, you guys were down 20-0, 25-0, 25-7. It's hard to even judge. Like, none of it mattered. In these games now, they're playing for the division. I mean, hell, they're competing for the number 1 overall seed. That's what's crazy. They are competing for the number 1 overall seed. I'm guilty of this too. It's like, hey, they're battling the Bills for the AFC East. Yeah, they're also battling the Colts and the Broncos for the fucking 1 seed. If the Patriots get the number 1 seed this year, I don't care how easy their schedule is. That would be just, I mean, one of the more incredible achievements in recent memory. Just given how bad they have been and how quick they flipped it, and obviously the coaching, but this quarterback, anytime you take a guy really high, right, your expectations are for them to be a high-end Pro Bowl level guy. That is the expectation when you draft a guy high. Fair or not, right? I was watching Solomon Thomas, who's just a great guy, and he's going to have a long career, and he's with the Cowboys now, and he was talking about the tragedy last week, and he's just any GM or team would want him as a rotational guy on their team, and he's going to have a 10 to 12 year career. The problem was he was drafted number 3 overall, so it's like he's not like a bust, but you would love to draft that guy in the 3rd round. You'd get a lot of credit for that. It's like, look at this guy, look at his career. But when you draft a guy in the top 5, in the top 10, your expectations are not just for them to be a franchise player, but for them to be like a great player at that position relative to the rest of the NFL. And I'm watching Drake Maye tonight, and I'm not trying to overreact to one game and really just his breakout season. but his physical attributes, you go, why couldn't he just be in the mix with all the other top cats, like Mahomes, like Lamar, like Josh Allen, like Joe Burrow, like Justin Herbert? And one thing he has in common with, I would say, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen is their experience in college was not easy. I was Googling it during the game. Lamar Jackson in college was going like 9-4 and 8-5. You know why? He wasn't playing at Ohio State. He wasn't playing at Alabama. He wasn't playing at Oregon. He played at Louisville. Now, they were good on offense, but relative to the ACC, they were going like 4-4 in the ACC. You know why? His teams weren't as talented as a lot of his opponents, or they were like at anything equal. Like he was not on some squad that is like Georgia or some of these colleges, like what Texas and Georgia is going to look like. Those teams are loaded. That was Patrick Mahomes' thing at Texas Tech. He had to figure out ways to give his team a chance. Josh Allen played at Wyoming, and I think that really served those guys well coming to the pros because in the NFL, it's not lopsided. You have to figure out ways to win. Hell, even Patrick Mahomes on some of these Chiefs teams, he has to figure out ways. And it's like you come, two at Alabama, he had a pretty good thing going. It's like, do I give it to Josh Jacobs? Do I throw it to Judy? Do I throw it to Ruggs? How about some of the other guys? Like, it's like, oh, well, pump the brakes because it's not this easy. And I just think that Drake May coming from North Carolina, where they were never the most talented team in their conference, where they were never a team that was going to threaten to, win a national championship. They were a team that wasn't going to run the table. They were a team that wasn't going to out-talent all their opponents. That serves you well. And it really showed because I was blown away tonight by how calm he looks, right? And that's the other thing. I always value, like, I have no problem, with guys that scramble around to throw. But when you scramble around to throw, what do you look like when you do it? It's one of my criticisms. Like when you watch Caleb, and it's his best trait, is he like runs around to make a play. But sometimes he runs, it's like kind of crazy. And I think if he's going to become a really good player, he's got to become a little more under control because it's just easier to like, you can't always throw super seeds when a guy is 20 feet away from you and you just need to lob it to him. Where you're watching Drake May tonight scramble, it's like, look how like light he is on his feet. He's not just sprinting to the sideline. He's just kind of slowly working his way out of the pocket, keeping his head down to then deliver a strike that typically resulted in a first down. So listen, Patriots, I don't know how you did it. You went from Belichick and Brady to Mike Vrabel, who's 50 years old, Drake May, who's 23 years old, and Josh McDaniels, your offensive coordinator, who is unhireable as a head coach, who's 49 years old, and has been on record many times that he loves New England. His family loves New England, and he might just stay there the rest of his career. So the infrastructure you have right now doesn't get much better. And some of your young players that are really coming on, I would. I mean, if the Patriots were a stock for the next 5 years, you could allocate a lot of your 401k on them because I think we all have to acknowledge their upside is really, really high. And they also benefit, and this is what Belichick and Brady benefited from, a very, very dysfunctional division. And speaking of dysfunction, we're going to hear all off season and the rest of this season, and then all next season if they don't do it going into the next draft. The Jets just need to draft a quarterback. The Jets just need to draft a quarterback. He can save the day. A quarterback can save the day. That's not how it works. If Drake May didn't get Josh McDaniels, Mike Vrabel, and the infrastructure that they brought, does Drake May look like himself? Probably not. Sam Darnold, I added it up. Over the last 2 years, since he got with Kevin O'Connell, and then this year with Kubiak, McDonald, and the Seattle Seahawks, is 21-5. And during those 21 victories, he's thrown 52 touchdowns. Yet when Sam Darnold was with the Jets and then the Panthers, he was a laughingstock. And structure and infrastructure matter so much at quarterback. The Jets literally drafted Sam Darnold. Like, they had him. They drafted him 3 overall. They were right. Like, they were on the right guy. Their problem was they never have the structure around a guy, really going back since Sanchez, when they drafted him number 5 overall, and he's clearly not as talented as Sam Darnold or Drake May. But what did they have? They had a good defense. They had a good offensive line. They had a good running game. And he could just ease into his career. Now, because of his talent limitations, it hindered his long-term growth, and he became ultimately what he was probably destined to become, a backup quarterback. But he had early success because they were equipped to handle him. And so many teams, all we got to do is draft a quarterback. Ask the Titans how that's going with Cam Ward. Because every single week, I know this, when I see the Titans playing a decent opponent, I hammer the opponent from a gambling perspective. Because they have no shot. Because they have no they're an embarrassment. And I think you go look at Mac Jones is a great example. Mac Jones' first year with New England, they had Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick, and they made the playoffs. Now, their team ultimately wasn't that good, and they got boat raced in the first round by the Bills. But they went 10-7. And he had a solid foundation and building block rookie season. Then what happened? Josh went to the Raiders. And they put Patricia in the job, and his entire career fell apart. And 3 years later, I'm as guilty as anybody. We weren't just making fun of Mac Jones. We went, this guy's a terrible player. This guy should probably be in like the UFL. Shouldn't be in the NFL. And then I see him with Kyle Shanahan in an offensive structure, philosophical belief as an organization. Mac Jones just rattling off wins. He's thrown for like 700 yards in 2 games against the Los Angeles Rams, a team that no one would be surprised if they're in the Super Bowl. If I put Mac Jones on this Jets team, how do you think it looks? Now, listen, the Jets are a good example. Justin Fields, he is not a pocket quarterback. And they are asking him to play, essentially, he's Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert or Drake May. That's not his strength. Herb Street said it tonight on a man coverage play where he just takes off and he ran for 10, 15 yards and got some easy first down. Herb Street's like, that's their best play. Why didn't they implement, if they're going to give this guy $40 million, some hybrid version of the original offense that the Ravens ran for Lamar Jackson to really emphasize his strengths, which is his elite athleticism and his speed. And obviously he's got a good arm and throws a great deep ball. But in terms of quick game, running a normal traditional offense is going to be a struggle for the guy. And it pains me to say that. I love the player at Ohio State. I was wrong. But the Jets are doing him zero favors. So in what world, just because they have 75 first-round picks, do I believe that this front office and this head coach, Aaron Glenn, what he did with the Lions was awesome. Seems like an awesome guy and a great defensive strategist. But when he got hired for the Jets, he does what a lot of these guys do. He goes, I want to become a head coach. Well, you got the job because of your dominance as a coordinator. Mike McDonald, when he got hired from the Ravens, he didn't go, you know what, guys? I'm going to prove I'm a CEO. He said, listen, I'm the head coach. That's my role, right? I run the team meetings. I tell the coaches what to do. But they hired me because I'm an elite defensive coordinator. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call the defense. So now I'm watching the Jets defense, which clearly, wasn't even good before they traded the guys. But the strength of Aaron Glenn, he gives that to someone else. And clearly, as a defensive coordinator, and I would say this about anything, they know nothing about offense. They have nothing to do with the offense. They have nothing to do with the offensive personnel. And, he's the head coach, so he's like, hey, I'll just hire an offensive coordinator, and that guy gets to do whatever he wants and just run a normal offense. Well, that's a terrible fucking idea if you're going to hire Justin Fields to be your quarterback. And you're watching, you're going, what is going on? And it's like they pound the table. We got to have a Donnie Mitchell, right? Who, listen, I'm guilty on that one too. I like that pick 45 a couple years ago by the Colts. The Colts were like, yeah, we'll have a Donnie Mitchell drop off those 2 first-round picks. It's like, well, they're not tangible assets. Yeah, well, he'll just bring them with him to the airport, and you guys can just keep him. So yeah, you really want him? Take him. I started texting around he was off draft boards, and I had a buddy tell me it's like, there's some similarities there with Brian Thomas Jr., who's a better player, but look at Brian Thomas Jr. this year, kind of falling apart. A lot of people had questions with some of these guys, but you go to one of their pro days, and Donnie Mitchell's a classic example. You go to a pro day, you go to a workout, you go, holy shit, this guy looks like an Olympian. But we're not playing Olympics on Sunday. We're playing football. And just because you can run faster than every player on the field, if you can't catch the ball, I don't care if you're open by 75 yards. It doesn't matter. I mean, Fields hit him in stride on a deep go route, and before you see the replay, you think, what a play by that DB. That's a fantastic PBU. And then they show the slow motion replay, and what happens? Goes right through his hand. So I just think the Jets have no clue what they're doing. And you can tell me they're going to draft Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza. You pick the quarterback, pick the young quarterback in 2 years. I will bet against that guy. I simply will. And I think we saw two organizations going in opposite directions tonight. I don't care if the Jets have 20 first round picks. I mean, they had a draft a couple years ago where they took Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Brees Hall in the top like 35 picks. They were shitty that entire time. So just because you draft good players, it doesn't mean you're going to win if you have absolutely no clue when it comes to the quarterback. Couple more things. One thing that's really starting to bother me is, and I've seen this a lot with the Luca Nico Harrison thing, is like, doesn't the owner deserve a lot of the blame here? He ultimately okayed it. And it's hard. I'm going to parallel this to football, but like, it was the assuming, like, and listen, I got a little conspiracy theorist on this. If you want to tell me and convince me, and I kind of believe it, that Adam Silver in the NBA, but let's just believe that there was no shady business, and it was just the Mavericks traded Luka Doncic to the Lakers. It was the GM's idea. It's not like the owner walked into his office like, "Hey, man, you think we should trade Luka?" And he's like, "Yeah, let me call around." See, no, he goes to the owner, and I've seen so many people like the owner deserves blame. Like when the GM has an idea, obviously on any sizable transaction, the owner is going to know. You're going to call them. If they're not in the office, you're going to text them. You are going to tell them your idea. And they're like, oh, yeah, go ahead. I saw that Carly Ursay, the Gucci owner who's on the headsets, gave some quotes that like Chris asked me and I said, hey, if you want to go for it, go for it. I'm giving you the thumbs up. If Sauce Gardner is a disaster for the Colts, let's just say in like 3 or 4 years we look back and it was a trade they regret. The owner bears no responsibility to that. It was the GM's idea, right? It was the GM's idea to pull the trigger on that trade. He goes to the owner and says, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Are you cool with it? I don't blame the owner. If the general manager goes, hey, that's the thing with the Cowboys, they just made some trades, right? That Jerry also is the GM. But any of these GMs, like when they trade for Jalen Phillips, obviously I'm sure he's like, hey, Jeffrey, we're going to pull a third round pick. And Jeffrey's like, do it. That's Howie's idea. So if Jalen Phillips blows up in their face, like just because Jeffrey gave him the go ahead, like that's on the general manager. That's part of the gig. I mean, look, we had a front row seat to that Hard Knocks with Joe Shane and the Giants when it came to these maneuvers, right? And the owner's like, hey, man, I don't know about that. And he's like, I believe in this. He's like, okay. Like, that's typically how it goes. This is their job, right? No different than like when a play is called. When these plays were happening on Monday Night Football and everyone's shitting on Matt LaFleur, it's like, that's his idea. These are his plays. He's the one calling them. Like, he bears the responsibility. So, yeah, it's like, in a perfect world, some of these owners should be like, I don't think we should do that. But that's not typically what most of these guys or now gals are doing. That's the GMs coming to them with these ideas because that's what they do 24/7, 365. Evaluate all the players, do different scenarios. These are the different ideas, throw different things. And a lot of ideas that they don't even need to go to them because they get shot down before they're even an opportunity. But if I hear one more time, it's like the owner deserves blame. It's like, I don't know. If you create the idea and you're the one pushing for it, to me, you deserve, even if it's like not your decision to make because you don't own the team. Most of these owners are like, good, go ahead. The Deshaun Watson situation is a little unique because the owner is a $230 million guaranteed contract. But a lot of these quote unquote trades in sports, like, I'm sorry, the general manager, and they'd be the first to tell you, like, they deserve to bear, good or bad, the responsibility of the trade. I'll get you out of here on this. Fugazi Friday. My wife, some of her friends have done this, really wanted to go to essentially, it's not necessarily, I think it's like a high end ultrasound to get pictures of the baby, right? But like good, like they can zoom in, it's high end equipment, costs a couple $100, and you see the face of the baby, and you get like we're a couple months away, and get a feel for what the baby looks like. Now I'm a believer, I'm not hating on her for this. I know a lot of people that have done this, but like, listen, whatever the baby's gonna look like, thank God so far everything's healthy. The baby's gonna look like. That's God's plan, out of our control. It would not be something that I would have made an effort to do. But she really wanted to do it. Support. I'll get in the car. I'll drive, 35 minutes to Phoenix and we'll go see this thing. So we get there and we just walk right in and we sit down and she's doing the thing and the baby's covering the face or his face with his hands. I'm like, or what are we able to do? She's like, well, you can get up, try moving around. I'll start playing music. I started screaming his name, hoping he would move around. And we sat there for like 25 minutes, and the baby never budged. And you couldn't take a picture because the baby's covering its face. And then toward the end, it was kind of, she's getting frustrated, like, kind of sucks. And I go, of all the people that come in, and I'm like, you have a lot of people that come in? Yeah, we have a ton every day. I'm like, what? Out of 10, let's just pick a number, 10. How many typically do you get a good photo of the baby? She's like, oh, maybe one. I'm like, so you're telling me about 10% of the time this works out? Because usually the baby, there's not much space in there. It's covered itself. You can't see shit. I'm like, shouldn't that be part of the advert? And then we started texting around, like, happened to other people. It happened to her brother. I'm like, shouldn't that be part of the advertisement? Like, hey, you can spend a couple $100, but the likelihood is you're not going to see anything different than you've already seen. I'm like, I probably would have liked to know that, to know, like, this is probably unnecessary. But hey, good gig if you can get it. But when she's like, yeah, maybe 2 and 10 on a good day, but yeah, typically 1 out of every 10. Like, I would have liked to know that before we just drove here through traffic to just be kind of devastated. But yeah, that whatever that business is, talk about a Fugazi. I'd recommend you do not need to do that. Just wait, because more than likely, you just won't have a good angle. Have a great night. Talk to everyone soon.